Hello everyone, it is a beautiful day here at the BYU Family History Library. Today we'll be exploring Google Earth Pro and how it can help you in your genealogical research. Google Earth Pro is a desktop application that allows you to explore the world, create your own maps, and it can be a very powerful tool for genealogists. Over the next few minutes, we'll take you on a whirlwind tour of things that you can do with Google Earth Pro. And I'll use the terms Google Earth Pro and Google Earth interchangeably in this presentation. In this presentation, we will explore a David Rumsey collection historical map of London. We will download and explore a georeferenced Utah Sanborn fire insurance map. We will download and explore a public land survey system line map. All right, everyone, hold on to your hats. Here we go. Once you download and install Google Earth Pro desktop application, you just simply need to click and watch the magic. The first thing we'll do today is navigate over to England using the mouse. As we zoom in, notice the compass symbols scattered across the globe. Each of those are a link to a georeferenced map in the David Rumsey map collection. All right, let's take a look at a map of London. If we click on a compass, it gives us a description of the map. In this case, the map was created in 1843 by B.R. Davies. This view also provides a link to download the additional Rumsey collection maps. To view a larger image of the map, we click on the thumbnail image and the map will overlay onto Google Earth. As we zoom in, we can see what an excellent job the Rumsey team has done georeferencing the map. Along the left side of the screen, we can activate the opacity bar by clicking here. This will allow us to fade in and out of the overlay. How can this help you in your research? My great-great-grandfather, Gammon Hayward, emigrated from London to the Salt Lake Valley in 1853. From Gammon's immigration records, we know that he was living on Mina Road at the time of his immigration. If the address or the road still exists, we can search for it using this search bar at the top left-hand corner. One caution, road names may have been recycled, so you may need to do some more research to ensure you end up in the right place. We type Mina Road into the search bar, and it will identify Mina Road in London on the satellite image. Using this opacity bar, we can fade the map in and out to get a feeling of how the area has changed since Gammon and his family left England. Using old maps in this way can help you identify local churches, schools, and other industries that may be helpful in your research. Another type of map helpful in United States research are the Sanborn fire insurance maps. Many of those images are available online for us to view. And a few of those maps have been georeferenced and available for Google Earth. The University of Utah has georeferenced all available Sanborn maps for Utah. Let's take a look at one of these maps. Reconstructing the Past through Utah Sanborn Fire Insurance Maps is the homepage for the georeferenced map. We choose a city listed along the left-hand side of the screen. For this example, we'll use Spanish Fork. Spanish Fork has maps created in 1890, 1908, and 1925, each with multiple pages or images. There are 3 options to view the map's images. The one we're looking for is the option that says KMZ files for Google Earth. We're going to explore the 1925 map today, and it contains 16 images that are available for us to download. We'll download just the first sheet. Now, in your download manager, you'll notice the file has a Google Earth Pro icon. So it's easy to identify which files are Google Earth Pro files. Now we simply click on the file and watch the magic. I've already downloaded the other images, and you can see it covers about, I'd say a quarter of the current Spanish Fork. The images overlap, and so you may have to turn on or off the layers by clicking the checkmark box in front of the file. And sometimes in a big list like this, you may have to hunt back. You can see the map refers to the Thurber Public Schoolhouse. That's the building that now houses the Spanish Fork City offices. Along the left-hand side in the Layers menu is the 3D building option. When we activate that layer option, the Thurber Schoolhouse jumps through the map. Now, if we turn that off and we make sure that we've highlighted image number 13, we can also fade in and out on the opacity bar. So how can this help you in your research? Sanborn maps rarely provide the business name or the homeowner's name, but you may be able to identify the businesses and houses through city directories, land records, or family histories. The Hayward family moved to Spanish Fork before 1923, when ads for their business making canvas automobile tops began appearing in the local newspaper. The business later expanded into making mattresses. I wasn't sure where the business had been. I wasn't even sure that it had been on Main Street. But if we follow Main Street north on this map, there is a building that houses an auto top works with a mattress factory at 242 North Main Street. Using a Sanborn map legend found online, I could tell the business was a one-story building clad in metal. It would sit right here today. A bit of history recovered. Land records are a very important record set in United States research. The Public Land Survey System, or PLSS, was created by the Land Ordinance of 1785. This survey system created a grid system throughout much of the United States, giving each parcel of land a unique land description. Even with that unique identifier, it can be difficult to pinpoint where your ancestor lived. Hidden in the depths of the internet is an overlay for the Public Land Survey System. As I prepared for this presentation, I found this website listed among some of my notes from a conference quite a few years ago. Unfortunately, typing in the URL is the only way that I can find access to it. But the overlay the overlay download is still valid. So we just choose Arc, GIS Earth, and once it's opened in Google Earth Pro, you can see that it's overlaid a grid on the satellite map. And if we slide in, you'll see that it has the township description. This is 14 North, 5 West. And you can see the numbering system here. That's a little bit blurry, so you may want to have a printout of the numbering system for the township sections. Just quickly, range lines move east and west from the prime meridian. The numbers increase or decrease depending on how close you are to that prime meridian. Similarly, the township lines move north and south of a baseline, and the numbering increases and decreases depending on how close you are to that baseline. Just like in school, we can use this to plot the correct township on the grid. I've been working on separating several Smith families and their descendants in Lawrence County, Arkansas. And it's been really helpful to have this overlay in front of me while I am going through the deed books. Let's look at an example. Sally, or Sari Sexton, was the wife of Jefferson Hudson, and she was a descendant of one of these Smith lines. In 1845, Jefferson Hudson purchased land from E.B. Woodrum. The land description was northwest quarter of Section 3, Township 15 North, Range 4 West. Let's zoom in and we'll find the right place, the right township. So the first thing is these are west, so the numbers should be getting larger as we go west. And so if we slide all the way in, we can see 11 west is the range. And we only need 4. So let's wait for that to catch up. Okay, this one right here was 11. All right, this was 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. So this should be the range 4 right through here. And if we get in there, yeah, we've got 13 north, 4 west. And we are looking for 15 north. So this one's 12. So if we go up, here's 13, 14, and 15. So we can come in closer. The sections are numbered in a serpentine pattern from 1 all the way down to 36. So we are looking for section 3. So here's 1, 2, and 3. Let's go ahead and come in closer. And I just like to look at it a little bit more straight on. Yeah, we know that it's the northwest quarter. So we go north and west, and here is the land that Jefferson purchased from E.B. Woodrum. Let's use some of the tools to make this more visible for us in the future. We can begin by using the polygon. The polygon tool allows us to draw a shape on the map. And we know it's just this square right here. If we click once and then twice and we continue around, this is the land. I don't necessarily like it being white, so I'm going to go ahead and change the color to, let's do pink, a light pink. And the nice thing also is, remember our opacity bar, that we can actually fade that in and out too as we want. let's put a place marker there as well. As I have been working and organizing the descendants, I have chosen different color coding. And if we come to this side button right here, we can choose the red A, that is Sally is a descendant of Alexander. So we're going to hit OK. And we want to mark who this land belongs to. It belongs to J. Hudson. And we want to move the marker up into that area. And once you click OK, you can't move it. And it put it in my file for unidentified Smiths. So I'm going to move it down here to Alexander Smith's family. Okay, I'm going to turn off the polygon, and I'll go ahead and turn on Alexander's family and William's family and Philip's family. So we can begin to see the patterns. Here is B Sexton, Basil Sexton, that is Sally Sexton Hudson's father. And so it would make sense that they would live pretty close together. We can go ahead and turn off the township overlay so you can get a feeling of one of the ways you can organize your research. We hope that this has been helpful and has given you some idea of how powerful of a tool the Google Earth Pro desktop application is in your research, and we hope that you all have a wonderful day.